topic on strategy. And as rightfully put, I think we feel or we think strategy is left for a chosen few. But lo and behold, strategy belongs to everyone because regardless of how small a role you play or how big your role is, at the end of the day, you need a bit of strategy or a game plan. Because I think the direct translation of strategy is a game plan that, I'm getting into this. This is where I want to get to. So, how do I get there? So, I'm very interested also to pick John's brain. And I believe he's bringing a lot of wealth of experience in terms of strategy, also based on where he has worked before and even the world of training. I think it gives us quite an insight on a few things, especially in life and corporate. So that is what we have planned. My name is Purity Wanjiro, and I'm very excited that this morning we're able to bring you again a part of our webinar series. And we're a HR consulting firm for those who are joining us for the first time. And we do trainings just like this one. We also do other trainings in-house or even in hotels. If you have a budget to do a hotel, that would be really nice. So that is what we do. We also do recruitment. Currently, we have quite a number of jobs. So I think it would be good also if you're looking for a job to go visit our website and see what potential jobs we can hook you up with. We do HR consulting itself, we do strategic management consulting, a few other things. So I'm very excited to talk more about our company at the very tail end of our webinar this morning. But other than that, karibu sana John. It must be your first time this year meeting the webinar team. So karibu sana. Let's do what we are very good at, that is training, and see how it goes. I'm happy to support throughout the webinar as and when I can. So without much further ado, karibu sana.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe everybody can hear me.
Yes, loud and clear.
Very good. I needed to check on that to ensure that my sound is all quite clear. So how is everybody this year? How's your 2026 began? Anyone? Has it started on a high, on a low, or just the same? James, you're unmuted. You want to share on that? James Wafula?
Hi. No,
Hi.
my year has started well.
Okay.
I think we're looking forward for better things.
Okay.
Ahead of the year. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good to know. I can see Joy Nyanchoka has said it started on a high. Wonderful beginning. Joy, care to explain? Okay, we'll hear from you if you're able to tell us the glad tidings. So today we want to talk about strategy, and that's what we want. And if you look at the title, it's going to be about strategy for non-strategists.
How much is
Okay, share, please. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let me just share my screen because there's a PowerPoint I have prepared that's going to serve as an outline for what we're going to be discussing. And I want you to feel free. I want to make this as interactive as possible. As always, I want us to be able to engage. If you've got any insights you'd like to share, I would definitely love to hear from what is working in your particular situation. So, strategy for non-strategists. Well, by the end of the session, what we want to be able to have achieved, we want to be able to understand what strategy actually means in everyday work, distinguish between strategy and planning, recognize how daily decisions affect long-term outcomes, and apply simple strategic thinking tools in our roles, and move from reactive work to intentional decision making. So as we begin our discussion, there is a question that I'd like us to probably have a bit of discussion on. Just a minute. Yes, there's a question that I'd like us to discuss a little bit. Share my screen. Yes. And that's the question that appears on your screen. I hope everybody can see my slides. Okay, very good. So that question there, what comes to your mind when you hear the word strategy? Anyone? Anyone would like to share what they understand by the term strategy? Feel free. Anyone? Okay, James, okay. Faith Moinda says it's a plan. Okay, somebody else? Dan Waiwa says that it's an action plan. Uh-huh. Anybody else? Admin HV says it's a plan. Okay. Kenneth Mwangi says something complex. Okay, Kenneth Mwangi, let me single you out. What do you mean by something complex? Okay, I can see Rhoda Pata, a plan with an objective to be achieved. Joy Nyanchoka, meticulous planning with a goal, with an objective, with a goal-oriented objective. Jennifer Siengo, it's a plan. Yeah. And those are really, really important ideas because, yes, strategy includes all of that. But today, what I want to pass across is that strategy may probably go far beyond just a simple plan. You see, when you talk about strategy, we're not just talking about intelligence or seniority, we are talking about choices. And every day, we are always making strategic decisions. The difference is whether those decisions are intentional or accidental. Now, what do I mean by intentional and accidental decisions? You see, when we talk about an intentional decision, we're talking about something that is made on purpose, with an awareness of the goals, the constraints, and the consequences. You choose a direction, and you are already aware that other options are being left behind. Clear objective, choices are deliberate, trade offs are acknowledged, and actions are aligned with purposes or with priorities. Now, when you talk about many of us, or when I've asked that question, I can see you said that it is a plan. So when you talk about strategy, that is probably what you have in mind. Something that is intentional. Yeah, that is something you've thought through, something that you want to pursue to its logical conclusion. But here's my question: is it possible for you to have a strategy where everything happens by default, accidentally, without any plan? Is that possible? What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Anyone would like to share? James, what do you think? Solomon? Yes. Okay. So it is possible to be able to have also the kind of strategy that happens a bit by accident, and that is now that's what I want to be able now to share. That sometimes you can make accidental decisions, no real choice is involved, but action still occurs. And what shapes that kind of strategy? And this is now what I'm sharing with you today. That sometimes maybe things are happening so fast, everything is very urgent. It's something that is born out of habit, out of pressure, and whoever speaks the loudest at the moment is the one who gets heard. Now, in many of our workplaces, because of the kind of work environment that we have, do we often find that a lot of the strategies are actually shaped by forces that are beyond us? Does that happen to you? Probably something is very urgent, so it needs to be done, it's prioritized fast. Something is out of habit, there's just a way that we do things. So that seems to force or to shape the way the strategy proceeds. Sometimes there's just pressure that comes, maybe for whatever reason. And sometimes it could be the person who is the loudest at the table that is the person who typically tends to shape the strategy in the organization. Often, in this environment, nobody intends the direction. It simply emerges. And so what I'm saying here really, at the end of the day, is that strategy can either be intentional or it can also be accidental. And so the question that I'm asking you at the place of work, at your place of work is the strategy at your place of work intentional or is it accidental? These days we hear that term, intentional, very often. It's become very cliched that I'm very intentional about what I do. Now, when you hear that term, typically it has the idea of somebody who thinks through what they want to do at a very, very deep level. And what I'm also saying is that now when it comes to strategy and the strategy that we implement in the place of work, it is good for us to also cultivate the habit of becoming intentional about what we do. Now let's look at a few examples of what an intentional strategy is and what an accidental strategy looks like. For example, when it is intentional, let's look at this team that decides. This quarter, we will prioritize customer retention over acquiring new customers. Okay, intention. Now, what will that mean? Some new opportunities will be ignored. Resources will shift to support existing clients. Success will be measured against that choice. And even if the outcome is imperfect, the decision was conscious. Now, that is easy to say, but here's the question that I'm going to ask everybody on the call today. If we want to adopt this strategy that we want to keep the customers that we have for this particular quarter, what is it that what are the trade-offs? What trade-offs do you think we'd have to make to be able to ensure that this strategy succeeds? Anybody who would like to share based on that scenario? Anyone? You can also share on chat. Okay, so John Bobo says no introduction of new products and services. Yes. Okay, so that's a trade-off. Okay, anything else? Anything else? Thank you very much, Joan. You can also unmute and also be able to speak if you'd like to share your thoughts verbally. It's also quite fine. Yes. So if we are going to be able to adopt such a strategy, then it means that there will be certain trade-offs that we'll have to take into account. We may probably have to say no to new opportunities, shift resources to be able to support those clients that are there, and then now the metrics for success, what success will look like, will be measured by that choice. Now let's look at, Gloria Bigai, business development budgets are reduced. Yes, okay, that's also a potential trade-off that would have to be taken into account. Now let's look at another example. A team keeps responding to the latest complaint, email, or crisis. Over time, long-term projects stall, staff become overloaded, results decline. Now, nobody may have decided this strategy, but it became the strategy anyway. Now, here's my question to all of us on the call. In many of our organizations, what do you find to be the norm? Are we intentional or are we accidental? Are we intentional or are we accidental? Anybody who's brave enough to either confess their sins or share with us what they're doing? A mix of both. Okay, Caroline, are you able to explain to us verbally as to what that looks like for you? Kenneth says you're accidental. Leila says both. Okay. Yeah, please proceed.
So in some cases, you'll find we're very intentional. Like, for example, the example you've given, we are
Yes.
going to focus on retention rather than new acquisitions.
Yes.
And then in some instances, it's very reactional, it's very informal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Any examples of places where you're a bit more reactional? Okay.
Let me think of something.
Okay. I'd love to hear from that. Thank you very much, Caroline. Anyone else? Anyone else would like to share their
For
perspectives?
me,
Yeah, Leila, go ahead.
it's both.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. For me, it's both. When we sit and we are aligning our business with the strategies that we have, there are things that come along the way. Either we were not able to foresee them, and it gets us to the point of being accidental, and just making sure that things are still running and we are on the course. So it's both for me.
Okay. Thank you very much. Kenneth, I can see you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Oh, yes. Hi, guys. My name is Kenneth. I think this meeting was also accidental. So we are not able to speak frequently because of where we are, but I'd say it's accidental because the consequences of what we are experiencing from the actions are not anticipated. And I've experienced this so much at work. You give client priorities or new clients such that we fail to improve, we fail to work on the current projects, we always move to the new things or any crisis that comes up. We find to have a big backlog.
Okay. So for you, in your case, you feel that it is accidental most of the time.
Yes, it's reactionary.
You're doing a lot of firefighting at the place of work.
Yes.
Okay. Could I ask a question? Do you see any potential or any trade-offs, things that you have to give up to be able to maintain the course on which you are?
Actually, we don't think about it only later that we look at resources. We always it's not planned. So anything that we have, like a client will say some things are not working or there's some bugs. So every time we'll always be allocating resources to any new request or crisis. There's something wrong with the balances. I'm in HRMS system. So
Okay.
there are always issues. So any bugs that come up, the resources will have to be reallocated to these things. So the trade-offs become the system is not improved. We are not creating new features. So time, it's there are a number of resources which you come to realize later after we have calmed the fire, but we don't realize it as we are ongoing.
Yes. And you see, and thank you very much for that feedback, Kenneth. And you see, this is the point we're trying to put across, that we cannot always prevent these emergencies, these urgent situations that happen in the course of a normal work. However, that said, we should be able to be a lot more intentional in the direction in which we are going vis-a-vis the industry or the market, or in relation to our business goals. And so that is why we want to think about this a lot more closely. That when it comes to intentional strategy, it means that we have chosen a direction, and that's the direction we want to take. The problem with an accidental strategy is that it drifts into whatever current moves us. Every organization has a strategy. The question is whether it is chosen, it was decided on, it is intentional, whether it happens by default, accidentally, based on the requirements of the moment. You see, if you don't decide how you're going to spend your time and what you're going to focus on, then somebody will make that decision for you. That's accidental strategy. But then intentional strategy means that you're going to decide way in advance as to what will deserve your attention. So it's good for us to think about these things in our organization. And one of the things that will be able to help us to be able to decide as to what should take up our attention is learning how to say no. Now, many of us struggle with this concept. Now, I'd just like to hear from you. Is this something that you find yourself struggling with? Do you struggle to say no? You clearly know this is a strategy, you know this is the best approach, but then there are other things coming in. Somebody wants us to take a different approach or do things that are not aligned to our strategy. How many of us have an easy time saying no to anything else that does not align to our strategy? Show of hands. Do you find it easy? Do you find it easy? Kenneth, do you find it easy?
Yes, I find it easy to control the situation.
Okay.
But it depends also with the organization or management position on some certain things.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Anybody who struggles to say no? Anyone? Anyone who struggles?
Yes.
Yes, Zach.
When it's being forced to be there, and maybe this is to a senior or a business owner.
Yeah.
Sometimes even no, you feel it won't thrive.
Yeah.
So you decide, let me just start.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I saw Dennis Wahome said that he feels muzzled. I constantly feel muzzled. Dennis, are you in a place where you can speak and explain to us what that means for you?
Oh, yes, thank you, John.
Yeah.
So, with regards to where direction is definitely headed off the cliff, but since it's being pushed down to say
Yeah.
it feels muzzling. So you just have to like accept. So no is not an option to in such a situation.
It could cost you your job.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So for us to be able to become better at becoming strategic in our thinking, there are always three questions that we have to ask when we're deciding on how to align and how to allocate our time and our resources and our attention. The three questions that we always have to answer is, where are we going? Secondly, how will we get there? Three, what will we not do? The reason why many organizations struggle with this is because in many cases, they may not have clearly answered the first question. When you're very reactionary, everything the customer tells you, that is what you focus on. Probably there's no clear idea as to where the organization is headed. So everybody invests a lot of energy in always fighting the latest fires and putting that out. But if you know where you're headed, then it becomes easier for you to be able to decide on what takes up most of your time. And I'd like to take a few examples from different industries. If you look at, for example, the financial sector, there are some banks that are very focused on ensuring that everybody is onboarded in the financial system. Everybody, they make their requirements for opening an account very easy, sometimes even free of charge. But then there are others that require you to have probably a minimum or an opening balance. Now, why would they do that? It's because they are focused on a very specific part of the market. So they know where they're going and they know how to get there. They know how to allocate their resources. So if you're not able to fit in to what they want, then in that case, they're basically telling you no. Okay, and that's just an example. So that is something that you also need to be able to know as an organization. Where are we going? What is happening in the broader industry? Which are the trends we need to watch out for? Which ones can we safely ignore? When it comes to the customer profiles, that the customer type of customer we're looking for, which customer do we want? Are we interested in targeting and in reaching out to? How do we get to them? And if somebody does not fit in within that customer profile or that customer segment, then in that case, maybe they're also find a way, very polite way of telling you, no, this is not what, or this is not the kind of demographic that we're looking for. So those are the three questions that you always have to answer whenever you are formulating any kind of strategy. And you can be formulating that at organizational, departmental, or even for you as an individual. Where are you going as a person? How do you get there? What will not help you get there? And those are the three things that you always need to keep in the back of your mind. So for many times, for many of us, it's very easy to answer the first two, where we are going and how we will get there. What sometimes becomes a bit of a challenge is now the last one. What is it that we are not going to do, or what is it that we'll have to say no to be able to get to where we want to go? And that's a skill that we need to develop. And that's what now we want to discuss in detail for a few more minutes and then see what that looks like. So let's start with the first question. Where are we going? That's the direction. That's about the destination. It's not about the activity. Many organizations describe movement instead of direction. They say things like, we want to improve performance. We want to grow the business. We want to enhance service. We want to increase efficiency. Now, these are intentions. Okay, these are things you want to do. But a strategic destination must answer the question, what will be different if we succeed? Who benefits? What does success look like in observable terms? So for example, if you say you want to improve performance, that sounds rather bland. Now the question is, how can we rephrase that so that it becomes an actual strategic goal? We want to grow the business. Again, very bland. It doesn't give you any idea of from what to what. Now that is what now strategic thinking will make us now change that intention into something that is a lot more clear and easy to be able to track. Okay, we want to enhance service delivery, increase efficiency. All those are intentions. Okay, but if you're going to give those intentions any direction, then it must be very clear for us to be able to observe, for us to be able to measure, for us to be able to understand what success will truly look like. And this matters because if you're coming from a non-strategic background, then every task will look equally important. Okay, people only focus on what they can do, what they can optimize locally instead of collectively. And effort spreads very thinly, where it really doesn't become very effective. So for example, let's look at these things that many people usually say. And again, I'd want us to engage on this a little bit. Now tell me, when you talk about things like improve performance, grow the business, enhance service, and increase efficiency, what do you think needs to be done to these intentions to be able to make them a lot more strategic for your particular organization? Is there anybody who can give us some thoughts, some ideas as to what we can do to those intentions to now make them strategic goals? Anyone? Any ideas, any thoughts? So for example, improve performance. So for us to convert that from an intention into a strategic goal, what is it that we can do to just that sentence, to that line there? Anybody who can share? Anyone, or even on chat?
Let's say we can talk about, let's say if you're doing production.
Yes.
So performance improvement could be, we are doing, let's say 1,000 per day, and we want to increase that to maybe 1,500. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Caroline. Eunice Mutava says, make them smart. Okay, Eunice, would you care to explain on that, please, if you're able to? Okay. As we wait for Eunice, Zach, please go ahead.
Okay. There might be a number of factors that one would be able to try to bring on board to see how the performance would be better. One is looking at the environment and also trying to understand what might be in there, some of the areas that we need to improve. Does it mean it's in terms of skills where you feel you need to do some training? Does it mean you need to improve in terms of your processes, to improve on the efficiency? So there are a number of them that one would wish to cascade them down and identify those areas and to see how they can work to make them better.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. So that's what we're saying. And I love the points that you shared, that you would need to change from, John Bogwa, quantify them, for example, improve stock performance. Improve stock performance by a certain metric. That's what we're saying. And I think that was the point that Ms. Mutave was trying to pass across. It has to be clear as to what will be different if we succeed. Okay, what does success look like in observable terms? And that ensures that whatever we do, we're able to prioritize between what is truly important and what just seems to be merely urgent or something that must be done immediately. The second question that the strategy answers is, how do we get there? This is where we talk about choices, this is where choices about method are made, that two organizations can have the same destination, but completely different strategies. Now let's give an example, a broader strategic goal, and that is increase customers. So one strategy could have them lowering prices and growing by volumes. Another strategy could be improve quality and target premium clients. Now, both of them are strategies for growth, but the path that they take may be different and could also determine the resource allocation as well as the effort that is going to be put into being able to achieve those goals. Now, they could also influence the kind of hiring decisions that we make, the daily priorities. And for people who come from a non-strategic background, the question that this answers is, why are we doing things this way? Why are some ideas rejected even if they sound? So we need to have a clear approach. Then teams will constantly change direction because there is no guiding logic that seems to govern the direction in which they are going. And because this is a very common one, let's get back to that. The question that I would probably want to hear from you, how are we doing? How do we find this different? Leila, again?
Really, me? I
Yeah,
had it
you.
as a story.
Okay. Anybody old enough? I'm not going to ask your age, but anybody old enough to tell us what Kodak was about? Anyone?
Kodak used to make picture films. I even have a camera of Kodak up to now.
You're still
I try
interested?
to sell it. I try to sell it, but no one wants to buy.
Nobody's interested.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I still have it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Joanne.
He has said what I wanted to say, that basically it was a camera that used film that you had to process
Yeah.
and print out the pictures.
Yes.
Most of us have those Kodak cameras for keepsake.
Oh, yes. As mementos, yeah? Yeah. So they had a strategy, didn't they? Now, what did they say no to?
I think change in technology. I think they did not take it.
Yes. Did it cost them?
Definitely. They are no longer in business,
Yes.
if at all. I don't know.
Yeah. I think they were trying to change cost the other day, but it's too late now. I think things have moved very fast because now we no longer even just do cameras. We have cameras on our phones. So unless you're going to do very expensive camera equipment, then that niche market they had, that problem is gone. So that is what sometimes leaders and business executives are usually afraid of. If I miss this opportunity, will it come back to bite me? Okay, so you want to keep your options open. You want to hedge your bets just in case there's a change that may actually come and turn things around. Okay, for you. That is one. Okay, but it could also work the other way, where you say no to a line of business, pursue a certain line of business, and it becomes the game changer for your organization. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword if you think about it. You could say no to something, and that now becomes the end of your organization. You could also say no to something, and that helps you to focus energy, focus your effort, focus your resources on something that actually now takes you and leads you forward to the next level. Something to think about. Now, the second reason is because sometimes we tend to be people pleasers. You want to please everyone, that you want to satisfy all stakeholders at once. And here's my question: is it possible to do that? Is it possible to keep everyone happy? What do you think? The simple answer to that is no. Okay? Yes, you cannot. You'll have to decide who you're going to prioritize first. Okay? And that now requires thinking about what you do, your business model, and so on. You need to think about that at a very deep level, okay, a very granular level. The third thing is that sometimes you could have short-term pressure. Urgent issues become really big and they begin to override long-term priorities. Now, that's the reason why sometimes many organizations struggle with the question of what is it that we're not going to do right now? But then, for us to become good at strategy, then it is important that we have to remember that at the end of the day, whatever choice we make, whatever set of decisions we take that inform our strategy, they are going to be trade-offs. There'll always be trade-offs. Okay, there are things we'll have to leave behind for us to be able to move forward. So the result of this problem, the result of organizations that cannot say no to anything, ends up with strategic documents that say everything is important. But now what typically happens is that execution becomes chaotic. So it is a much better approach if we focus on things that we can do and do well. And then with time, if it becomes clear that there are other things we need to add to that strategy, then we go ahead and do that. Let me give an example of this country as an example. There's one thing that Kenyans are very well known for globally, and that is running. Okay, that has become almost strategic, if you like. Yeah, we are good at it. Okay, and maybe if you've interacted with people from other countries, even when you know yourself that you cannot run, the first question that other people from other places ask you is, are you able to run? Okay, because they think that all Kenyans know how to run. Okay, so we need to think like that. It doesn't mean that Kenyans can't play football. It doesn't mean that they can't play rugby. It doesn't mean that they can't play, they can't swim, they can't participate in Winter Olympics and all these other things. But what is it that you're really, really good at? What is it that you've developed to an art almost? And that is the running. So we need to think in those terms that, yes, we're not saying no to football. We're not saying no to rugby. We're not saying no to basketball, but we're saying, what is it that we are good at? What is it that we can do well? Okay, Helen, you'd like to share on something? Helen, you there? Yes. Okay, kindly mute if you don't mind. Thank you. Yes. So, yeah. So that is what we want to do, to think of in terms of what is it that we can do well? What is it that we're able to do well right now? And maybe sometimes rather than think about, oh, what is it that I'm saying that I cannot do? No, I'm not saying that you cannot do it, but you're saying, let's focus on what we do well and then just do that. And because of that, if we do it that way, then our execution of the strategies that we're pursuing becomes much, much, much better. So at an individual level, So at an individual level, the three questions become, what outcome am I trying to move forward toward? What is the best way to contribute to that outcome? What work should I stop or postpone? We're able to answer the first two very well. And again, at individual level, we should be able to think about the third question. And this is where now intentionality becomes very key. What is it that I should stop or postpone? What is it that I need to keep in the back burner, for me to be able to focus on what I really want to do? And that is why you find that many people end up becoming very busy, but very effective. And sometimes you'll see it even in the way sometimes people run businesses. You've probably noticed that in certain communities, people want to do everything. So you find somebody wants to open a matatu, wants to open a shop, wants to open a cyber cafe, wants to open a petrol station, wants to open a hairdressing salon for mama, wants to have a block of flats, one person running all those things. What do you think the danger in that approach is? What is the danger in that approach?
It's the lack of focus on one particular industry. So you're likely to have your efforts spread thinly all over. So you're not able to give the best for one particular which you could be best at.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much, Kellen. And resources will be overstretched. Jack of all trades and expert of none, as Carol says. But you find that somebody else probably decides, okay, I'm really good at the restaurant business, really good at catering. And so what do? They focus on that, and what do they end up doing? They end up building a really giant of a business. Okay. So sometimes that is what we need to think about. What is it that we're able to do and do well, and then focus on that. So even at an individual level, that is something we need to think about very intentionally to be able to get it right. Okay, just excuse me. Okay. Yes. So the kind of strategic behavior that we want to have is to ask why before how, prioritize impact, anticipate problems, and understand the trade-offs that we'll have to make, especially the last one. What trade-offs will we have to make for us to be able to achieve the goal? Usually, most of the time, we don't have a hard time understanding why we need to do this, what is the impact, what are the problems we anticipate. Those we get very fast. But the trade-offs, that is sometimes a bit of a challenge. It can sometimes become very emotive for us. Now, non-strategic behavior will be like waiting for instructions, solving the same issues repeatedly, optimizing small things, rather than looking at the big picture. And for us, especially as we move into strategy, as we become more strategic in the way we work and in the way we think, we want to begin to look at the big picture, that how does this contribute to the overall goal? So before we start any major work, the question that we want to ask ourselves is this moving us forward toward our goal? Is this the best use of our time right now? What happens if we don't do this? If it is unclear, then we pause and then we clarify. So here's a scenario. A team is overloaded, customers are complaining, and management wants faster delivery. So here's something I want us to discuss. I'd like to hear from you. What is it that this team should stop first? Okay, let me just... yeah, so what should this team stop first? Uh-oh. Sorry. Yeah. Yes. So what should this team stop first? What is it that needs to do in that scenario? Maybe you've been in that scenario at the place of work. You're overloaded. Not everybody's, others, not everybody's there. So you really have a huge workload. Customers are complaining. Management is calling. So what is it that you would need to prioritize in this kind of situation? Any ideas? Because we realize you cannot do everything, can you? You cannot keep everybody in that situation happy. So what is it that you would need to think about doing first? What would you need to prioritize? Ensure that is going, that is running, then now handle other things when that's done. What do you think? What should we stop first? Not what should we do first. What is it that we should stop first? Or what do you do? Okay, so April Manuel, customer complaints. Okay, thank you very much, April. You like to discuss that a little more? Okay, so yeah.
I feel like I would first of all sort the customers' complaints because they affect us internally and externally. Then now I would come and solve the internal issues.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, April. Gloria Miguel, you'd like to explain what you say? Analyze the root cause. Okay. So what would that look like for you, Gloria?
I don't know. I don't know what it was.